My Hero Academia is one of the best series to come out of Japan. It's manga taking inspiration from American comics, which makes it an all-time great series, mixing the insanity from both cultures into an awesome book and show. I'm on a quest to review all of Season 1. Last time we talked about the first 4 episodes, and continuing on, we'll be reviewing the next 4. With that, I'm Rocko from Remlore, and let's dive in. By the way, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe because we upload videos just like this one on our Remlore channel. What I Can Do Now, Episode 5. We open with seeing the exam results from the entrance exam, and of course Bakugo is topping the charts with 77 combat points and no rescue points. The teachers are discussing the exam results and how Bakugo stayed focused and took out the villains, and Midoriya's power seemed to hurt him and render him helpless, which gets the attention of a teacher in the background. Back on the beach, All Might and Midoriya meet up. All Might congratulates Midoriya on getting in and explains he didn't pull any strings for him. Midoriya asks about the power and All Might says he'll master it in time, but it's all or nothing right now. Training is the only way to regulate it. Something I didn't mention last time, the reason All Might has such dark, heavy ink lines is because it's a reference to the Golden Age Superman from the 30s, who was also drawn with big, heavy ink lines. As Midoriya is ready to leave for UA the next morning, his mom says she's proud of him before he makes it to UA. He tells us that 4 people got in through recommendations and 36 got in through entrance exams. 40 students separated in Class 1A and Class 1B. Midoriya arrives in Class 1A and hopes that Bakugo and Ida aren't here, and of course as soon as he walks in, they're both sitting right there arguing because nothing in Deku's life is easy. Ida and Midoriya formally introduce themselves, and Ida actually apologizes for making assumptions about Midoriya because he thought he was a slacker. Ida is a nice guy, it's just that he is super serious about school stuff. Uraraka is also there with Midoriya not being able to process being near a girl in a cute uniform. Before we could hear more, we cut back to a teacher saying how surprised he was that Bakugo and Midoriya both got into UA. Bakugo then puts Midoriya up against a wall and yells at him. He's the only one who should have gotten into UA. This is when Midoriya stands up for himself as he says that, like it or not, because of All Might saying he could become a hero, he is going to be one, and Bakugo can't do jack about it. So now I assume Bakugo is going to murder Midoriya. As Uraraka is talking to Midoriya, this is when the school teacher shows up inside of a sleeping bag. This is Aizawa, their homeroom teacher, who looks very tired, but don't be mistaken, he is basically the Batman of My Hero Academia. He's played by Alex Organ in the first season, but he's replaced by Christopher Woodcrab in the following season, and they both do a great job. He tells everyone to get their gym gear on and meet outside. Aizawa says this is going to be a quirk assessment test. Up until now, they have only done physical exercises without quirks, but today that is going to change, as they will be doing exercises with their quirks helping them. While this sounds fun, Aizawa brings up whoever has the lowest score is the weakest and will be expelled. All Might reads Aizawa's file and sees that he is going to single out Midoriya. Uraraka questions why you would do something like this, and Aizawa says if you want to be a pro, you need to push past your limits, to be ready for what the world has to throw at you. Good time to introduce the class of 20 here, which all get more screen time as the series goes on. We've already met Midoriya, Bakugo, Ayama, Uraraka, and Ida, but there's also Todoroki, Mineta, Sero, Jiro, Ojiro, Hagakure, Yaoyorozu, Sato, Su, Kirishima, Kaminari, Shoji, Koda, Ashido, and Tokoyami. Don't worry, we'll get to know them better as the series goes on. Aizawa designed these tests to push how far their quirks can go so he can accurately gauge what they need to improve. Midoriya, meanwhile, realizes that since he can't control his power yet, he is at a massive disadvantage. Back on the beach while they were talking, All Might says that to control the power, he has to visualize it traveling through his body, which Midoriya translates to an egg in a microwave. All Might says he needs to lower the wattage or else the egg might explode. Back with the tests, everybody is getting crazy good scores because of their quirks. Uraraka even sends a ball floating into space and got a score of infinities somehow. When it's Midoriya's turn to throw, he realizes that if he doesn't do good now, he is probably gone. Midoriya powers up One For All and throws the ball as Yusei Run starts to play, and he throws it at a normal distance. One For All didn't activate because Aizawa erased it. Midoriya realizes that Aizawa used to be a pro hero called Eraserhead, who can erase quirks just by looking at you. Midoriya didn't recognize him despite being a fanboy because, as All Might tells us while hiding behind the building, Eraserhead hates the media. He thinks that they just get in the way of hero work and isn't a fan of celebrity heroes. I really like this. It does build the world a little bit more by having heroes who don't care about the fame or money. Aizawa says that the judges made a mistake and that Midoriya shouldn't be here. He isn't ready and doesn't have control over his power, that just now he was probably going to break his arm again. That would get him killed in a real hero situation, so he's nothing but a liability. He has reckless passion, but Midoriya isn't going to do much if he can only throw one punch before going down. Aizawa says he's sorry before he returns the quirk and tells him he can throw one more time. Now he's probably right, but isn't the whole point of UA to train students to best use their power? And and Aizawa put him in a lose-lose situation. Either he doesn't use the power and gets sent home because he came in last place, or he does use it, break his bones, and must forfeit. I have had it. Even Aizawa is dunking all over Deku, and it needs to stop. This kid is going to need therapy with all the abuse he's had to endure on a daily basis. Midoriya isn't going to give up though, so he channels One for All through his finger to throw the ball. Because of this, only his finger breaks, so he is still standing. Aizawa can't believe it, and even All Might is impressed at how cool Midoriya has gotten. That's the end of this episode, but how does it rank? Characterization gets a 5. While we do have more characters to learn about, the introduction to Aizawa is excellent, showing he's tough, but not mean for the sake of being mean. He's trying to make great heroes. And everyone else plays their characters super well. The story I'm giving a 5. While it's nothing to write home about, the tension is there, and you believe that Midoriya might get expelled if he doesn't do well. Entertainment gets a 4. Now that we're in school, it does get fun as we find out this won't be a normal school. Importance also gets a 5. We're introduced to the class and the teachers, so it's a must-watch. Rage, you damned nerd, episode 6. We start off right where we left off with great reactions from everyone. Aoyama is impressed, Uraraka is ecstatic, Ida is perplexed by his power, but the best reaction is from Bakugo, who is just slack-jawed and speechless at how Deku could have a quirk when he didn't get one as a kid. Seriously, when I first saw this in the book, I laughed out loud. Bakugo charges at Midoriya, demanding to know how he did that, but Aizawa stops him with his awesome capture weapon scarf. Bakugo remembers when they were kids talking about their quirks, with Bakugo reaffirming that Midoriya is just an annoying bug he could smash into the ground. As the fitness test comes to an end, we see that Yaoyorozu somehow got first. How is that possible? I mean, she isn't in bad shape or anything, but if this was a fitness test, shouldn't have Sato or Bakugo come in first since they are the most physically fit? Plus, Uraraka got infinity on her scores. How the heck can you not come in first when infinity is on your spreadsheet? And the one going home, unfortunately, in last place is Midoriya, so show over, I guess. No, it's not. Aizawa says he was lying before to get everyone to try their hardest, so no one's going home. Also, how did Hagakure get in front of Deku? Her quirk is invisibility. It doesn't help in any physical activity. And Midoriya is ripped, remember? All Might confronts Aizawa after the exercise and says that was a dirty trick. All Might read his file and knows about how often Aizawa expels anyone he thinks isn't worth it. Once he expelled a whole first-year class, so he was planning on sending Midoriya home. Aizawa admits that Midoriya doesn't have zero potential. If he did, then he'd be home right now. Aizawa explains that it's cruel to let someone dream of something that isn't going to happen. While All Might understands he is being kind in his own way, they are not going to get along. So yeah, they have the whole Superman-Batman dynamic down to a T. After school, Midoriya is heading home exhausted when Ida shows up to check on him and discuss the day, conflicted with how Aizawa ran the class. This is when Uraraka joins them and calls Midoriya Deku because that's what Bakugo calls him. Yeah, I didn't explain it in full in the last video, so I'll explain it now. Mostly because the dub doesn't explain what's going on with his name. In Japanese, if you change the letters around, Izuku becomes Deku, which is a pun on Deku Nobu, which means good for nothing, used by Bakugo to tell Midoriya he's worthless. Uraraka thinks the name could be cool as a hero name, and it's pretty cute. What she means is Deku can also be short for Dekiru, which means someone who can do anything. Despite saying it was an insult, Midoriya says it's cool for Uraraka to call him that. So look at that! After all the crud he went through, he finally made some friends, and this guy deserves it after all the nonsense he's had to put up with. The next day, we figure out there are general courses that they take in addition to the hero course, and they eat 5-star meals from the hero lunch rush. Teaching hero stuff today is All Might, wearing what is called his Silver Age costume. Yeah, he has costumes that are named after the Bronze, Silver, and Golden Age of comics, although we never see him in the Bronze Age suit. He says that today they are doing fight training. Before that, he tells them that the most important part of being a hero is looking good, and gives them the costumes they designed. Basically, how it works is they sketch out what they want and a costume company makes it for them. We then get to see everyone's costumes, and man, they all look cool. Aside from one person, Deku. Because while his mom was getting him food, she noticed a drawing on his desk of what he wanted his hero costume to be, so she had it made. I think that is really sweet, especially when he does change up the suit, the base always stays the same. This is also where she apologizes for giving up on Midoriya's dreams so long ago, and promises to support him now no matter what. We see Deku's costume and it looks like that. Yeah, I'm not a fan of this design. It would get so much better, but now it's too weird. The bunny ears, the fake teeth, the suit making him look skinny, and the mask itself being a pullover. It's no wonder this suit didn't make it past this chapter. All Might says that while fights they see on the news happen outside, most fights happen indoors, so that's what they are training for today. They will be broken up into teams and fight on the sides of good and evil. The villains hide a bomb in the building, and the good guys either have to reclaim the weapon or capture the villains. Of course, All Might will step in if things get too rough. They draw lots, and we find out that Ida is teaming up with Bakugo, and Midoriya is teaming up with Uraraka. And of course, Midoriya Midoriya is fighting Bakugo in the first match, but Midoriya isn't afraid. I also want to say I really like Uraraka's costume. It's very reminiscent of Saturn Girl's costume, and if you tie anything into the Legion of Superheroes, I'm just going to like it. Bakugo thinks that maybe Midoriya has just been lying about his quirk and is determined to destroy him. Midoriya is worried about fighting Bakugo because he is so talented, but that is why Midoriya wants to win, and Uraraka is down for that. We start and we see that All Might and the other students are watching and commentating on the fight. I like this because it breaks up the action and we get to see some character traits. Midoriya and Uraraka walk through the building until Bakugo shows up, guns or explosives blazing. Bakugo thankfully destroys the awful mask before charging at Midoriya again, but Midoriya slams him down with an arm throw. Midoriya says he analyzed every amazing hero, including Bakugo, and that he can call him Deku all he wants, but he's not a kid anymore. Deku, like Uraraka said earlier, is the name of a hero now. Bakugo stands back up, seeing Deku is shaking so much because he's terrified, but is still going to fight, and that is why Bakugo hates him. That brings this episode to an end, and how does it rank? Characterization gets a 5. Everyone is as strong as always, along with getting hints that there is more to Bakugo than just being a bully. Story gets a 4. It's a good setup for what's to come, with the rivalry coming to a head. Entertainment gets a 5. It is very entertaining, especially with the costume bits and the fighting. Importance gets a 5. It's the very first time Bakugo and Midoriya go for an all-out fight, and would be essential for both characters. Deku vs. Kacchan, Episode 7. We open with Bakugo and Midoriya as kids when they were friends until Bakugo's quirk manifested and he changed. All Might explains that the heroes and villains have capture tape, and if you wrap it around them, they lose. Deku and Bakugo continue to fight as Uraraka runs off. We see that Deku is using his tape like Aizawa to keep the advantage before running off. Deku's plan right now is to hold off and defeat Bakugo and then join up with Uraraka to take down Ida. This is also where Midoriya takes back what he said about not wanting to compete against Bakugo. More flashbacks with Kid Midoriya and Kid Bakugo, where Bakugo is bullying Midoriya. When Bakugo got his quirk, everyone around him sings his praises, talking about how awesome it is, and it goes to his head. I really like this storytelling. It shows us that kids having powers like that can really impact their development, especially when it's a powerful quirk. It gets to the point where they let you get away with anything because you're so strong. After Midoriya doesn't get his quirk while exploring the forest, Bakugo falls into the river and Midoriya checks up on him, but Bakugo thinks that's an insult. How dare you try to be a kind person, Deku? I'm the kindest one here. The reason Bakugo takes it as an insult is because he views it as someone with no power looking down on him like a weakling, when he is so much better than everyone else. Back with Ida and Uraraka, Ida devotes himself to villainy and goes over the top with a villainous monologue, which reveals Uraraka. Ida had a dastardly plan, however, as he has taken everything out of the room so she can't touch anything. His evil machinations have come to fruition, a true criminal mastermind. Bakugo explains how his quirk works, that he can sweat nitroglycerin from his hands and make it blow up. But with his new gauntlets, he can build up sweat for a massive explosion. He lets out a massive blast which destroys part of the building and says, "Quirk or not, you'll never beat me, Deku." Back with Ida and Uraraka, Uraraka floats herself up and tries to grab the weapon, but Ida uses his speed to move the bomb and says he can just keep doing that until time runs out. Bakugo is still taunting Deku, who is stumped on what to do, as he calls Uraraka. I was like, dude, ask her out after the test. And Bakugo thinks he's ignoring him again. Kirishima the Rock Guy asks All Might if this should stop since, Bakugo is saying he's going to kill Deku. All Might explains despite his attitude, Bakugo is not trying to kill or even badly hurt Midoriya. Still, All Might says if he does that giant explosion again, Bakugo will lose. All Might thinks he should stop this fight, but he wants Deku to get over his fears and stand up for himself. Bakugo then pulls off this awesome move, exploding behind Deku, blasting smoke in his face, and then blasting him with an explosion to the back. That impressed all of the students watching and reveals that he may come off as a hothead, but he is intelligent when it comes to fighting. I like that bit of commentary. It makes Bakugo a little bit like Goku, who is not the smartest academically, but he is a genius when it comes to fighting. Except as we'll see in a future episode, he is actually a genius academically. Bakugo just starts wailing on Deku while shouting that he should never forget what he is, a weakling. This is where Deku realizes he can't beat Bakugo without a quirk and that he has to use his power. Deku runs to the back of the building while Bakugo asks why he isn't using his quirk. Bakugo asks if Midoriya thinks he's better than him. Deku knows he is nothing compared to Bakugo, but that is why he wants to win, because Bakugo is amazing. This is when they charge at each other with everything they've got. All Might tells them to stop, but Deku suddenly calls for Uraraka to get into position because this was his plan. Instead of punching Bakugo, Deku punched upwards and destroyed the upper levels. This allowed Uraraka to use the rubble to attack Ida, slip past his defenses, and grab the bomb. Bakugo is devastated, asking if this is what he planned the whole time. Deku says he didn't want to use his power because he can't control it. This was all he could think of though as he collapsed, All Might declaring the heroes the winners. Characterization can get a 6. This is the episode we've desperately needed from these characters, going deep into Midoriya and Bakugo's relationship and showing off it wasn't as simple as a jock beating up a nerd. Story gets a 5. I really like the head-to-head story, not just being a physical fight but a personal one. Entertainment gets a 6. The fight setup is really fun too. Bakugo is always fun to watch as he explodes around the place, and Ida trying to be the villain is very funny. Importance gets a 5. It is the conclusion to Deku and Bakugo's first fight. It is vital that you watch this if you're binging My Hero. Bakugo's start line, episode 8. Midoriya is carted off as Bakugo is freaking out. Midoriya made him look like an idiot and somehow won the exercise. If they really fought, would Midoriya win? All Might tells him to calm down and says that whether he wins or loses, he can always take something away from an experience. I like this little bit from All Might. While Deku is his successor, he takes his job seriously and is devoted to teaching all of his students. All Might names Ida the MVP of the exercise, and Yaoyorozu explains why. Bakugo was hyper-focused on Midoriya and made poor decisions like the giant explosion. Midoriya did extreme damage to the building and himself, and Uraraka revealed herself by laughing, which is a no-no. The heroes did win, but mostly because this was training. If this was a real bomb, none of them would let out attacks like that. Ida was the only one with a sound strategy and adapted on the fly. Yaoyorozu was one of the 4 students who were admitted based on recommendations. And yes, we do have to bring back the questionable counter, because of her awful outfit, it rolls up to 2. This costume is way too revealing for her. And don't forget, she is a 15-year-old being sexualized here. Now in the story, this makes sense because her quirk is creation. She creates things from her skin, so it needs to be exposed, but you could have just said it goes through her clothes. This was just an excuse to show some skin. Moving on to the next match, we see that Todoroki and Shoji, the heroes, are going up against Ojiro and Hagakure, who are the villains. Hagakure takes off her clothes so she can go invisible, which is embarrassing for her since Ojiro is in the room. Even though she is invisible and walked into the test with no pants or shirt. This also teases a romance between the two that gets expanded in the Team Up Mission spinoff, and just to let you know, that story is super cute. Shoji uses his arm duplication to scout out the area, but Todoroki says it's not necessary, as he uses his ice powers to freeze the entire building and the villains in place. He is then able to secure the bomb with ease while looking like the Terminator with that red eye. Everyone is shocked at how good that guy is, as he also got in through recommendations. Bakugo is freaked out more than anyone, however, at just how strong Todoroki is. They then do the rest of the test with a cool montage showing off what the majority of the class could do. When you see them, you think, oh wow, these guys seem pretty cool, maybe I should just learn a little bit more about them. We also have to update the questionable counter, as the camera was focused on Yaoyorozu's butt while Mineta stared at it. It rolls up to 3. After the tests are finished, All Might says he is proud of all the students and runs off at super speed to check on Midoriya. Recovery Girl is mad at All Might because Midoriya is already a regular in her office. This is also where we learn that while the teachers know about All Might's weak form, only Recovery Girl and a few others know about One for All. Recovery Girl asks if being a natural-born hero is necessary since he is already the symbol of peace and the #1 hero. All Might says if people knew about a quirk as powerful as All Might's could be passed on, every villain, even every hero, would be after Midoriya. Midoriya wakes up late afternoon and walks back to class where the rest of Class A is waiting. They wanted to see if Midoriya was okay, and this is where we formally meet all of them because they are all super impressed with that match. Okay, we're going to speedrun this. Normally the show introduces them one at a time, but I'm gonna do it in one shot. Okay, go. Colleen Clickenbaird plays Yaoyorozu. David Matrogan plays Todoroki, Justin Cook plays Kirishima, Monica Rao plays Sue, Jesse James Grell plays Tokoyami/Dark Shadow, Trina Nishimori plays Jiro, Kyle Phillips plays Kaminari, Caitlin Glass plays Ashido, Brina Palencina plays Mineta, Christopher Bevins plays Sero, Ian St. Clair plays Shoji, Felicia Angel plays Hagakure, Mike McFarlane plays Ojiro, Chris George plays Sato, and Greg Ayers plays Koda. All the voices you hear in this show are probably ones you've heard a million times in other dubbed animes. These people are in everything. What's a turnoff for most people who watch My Hero is the fact that there are so many characters. That's a fair criticism, but I don't mind it. Because it feels like you were just put into a fully established comic book world like Marvel or DC with all its different heroes. You have all these fun characters who might become your favorites, and what Horikoshi does best is plant story seeds early on to hint for the future. And the reason that so many characters work is because we barely, if ever, pull focus away from Deku or the main story. Where normally in other mangas we would spend way too much time on the characters that aren't really important to the story. All these characters are super fun and super ambitious and super memorable. In My Hero, I feel compelled to learn about all these heroes and their stories. During this meeting, it's also where we get the first instance of Ida doing the robot hands explaining things. Midoriya notices that Bakugo had left and goes after him. Midoriya tells Bakugo that he hasn't been hiding his quirk, but that he got it from someone else. He doesn't say All Might, but he does say he has no control over it right now. But he is going to get full control of this borrowed power and beat Bakugo legitly. Bakugo doesn't believe it and thinks Midoriya is just trying to make a fool of him again. He confesses that if he had fought Todoroki, he couldn't win and that he agreed with Yaoyorozu. His attack was stupid. He actually pulls a Midoriya and starts to cry, and he says enjoy that win because Bakugo is going to be the #1 hero no matter what. All Might shows up to have a talk with Bakugo about pride, but he doesn't really listen and says he will become more famous without his help. An end credit scene, however, shows the villains of the show say that they are going to kill All Might. Characterization gets a 6, because even with the short time we spend with many of the class, we're already getting a feel for their personalities, and we're seeing Bakugo's vulnerable side, making him even more three-dimensional. Story gets a 5. The story continues to be good as the fallout of the last episode directly impacts this one and where the story goes. Entertainment gets a 4. It is just fun watching superheroes do their thing, fighting each other, and we get snippets of what their powers are going to be like. Importance gets a 4. Now this is less important because it's mostly fallout, but I think it's still necessary because we are formally introduced to the rest of the class. That's all we're covering today. Next time we continue on with the last 5 episodes of Season 1 where we meet my favorite villain, Shigaraki. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all later.